What's up, athletes? All right, 4.7 factored form, the moment you've all been waiting for. So, a lot of things stay the same here. Here's a new form for us. A still does something with our positive and negatives. So if A is positive, we know it's going to open up. That doesn't change. If it's negative, we know it's going to open down. All right, so a lot of these things stay the same. Now, factored form is awesome because it gives us our zeros. All right, so this X right here is going to give us our first zero, or one of our zeros, okay? So the order on that doesn't matter. But remember, because it's minus in our formula, we have to use the opposite sign. And then this guy is going to be our second zero. Again, order is not important here. And remember to use the opposite sign again here. So really what this is giving us, these are giving us our x-intercepts, right? Our zeros. These mean the same thing. That is where it crosses the x-axis. And in a parabola, where it crosses the x-axis is always symmetrical, which means that my vertex is going to be perfectly split right in the middle of those 2 points. All right, so we're going to jump into that idea later here. So how am I going to find those zeros from that? We're just going to go ahead and set our x minus whatever your x is equal to 0. And it's just going to be a one-step solve. Right? We're just going to do the opposite. A lot of us are not going to write this out even, right? We can look at x minus 3 and know that the opposite of minus 3 is going to be positive 3. So looking at this, if I have x minus 1 equals 0. So when I solve, I add 1 and balance, and that gets me x equals 1. So see how we can just take the opposite sign here? Instead of doing all that, we can just say instead of minus 1, it's going to be positive 1. So instead of minus 5, we're going to have to add 5 onto the other side to 0. And 0 plus 5 is 5. All right, how do I know if it's a minimum or a maximum? All from A. So A here is positive, so we are going to be opening up, giving us a minimum. All right, here we go. So on this one still, x plus 2 equals 0. We solve, we get minus 2 or negative 2. And again, x minus 3 equals 0. We solve and get positive 3. This is just good old algebra. Okay, so our x-intercepts here are at negative 2 and 3. And when I'm looking at my A value is still positive, even though it's a 4, so we know that it's going to be stretched, but it's still opening up, still giving us a minimum. We're going to add more in here in a second. Here's my 0, opposite of negative 5. We're going to get positive 5 on our x-intercept and positive 9. Now my A here is negative 1. So that means we're going to be frowning, opening down, giving us a maximum. All right, so we're going to find the vertex here. We talked about it a little bit at the beginning, that these x values are going to be on the outer edges, and we can perfectly split it in the middle to find our vertex. So if I go opposite 1 here, we know I'm going to have an x-intercept at 1 and 3. So remember, I'm opening up. I'm going to have a crossing at 1, and I'm going to have a crossing at 3. Well, if you're looking at a graph, we know in the middle of that is 2, right? Sometimes we don't have a graph. So here we go, trying to find the x value of our vertex, because that's just going to tell us where we are in the middle. You have to just use your formula for average, which is just add up the two numbers and divide by 2. So I'm going to do 1 plus 3. This is going to get us our x value. We're adding x plus x divided by 2. That's just going to take us right in the middle. So that's 4 over 2, which equals 2. So my x value is 2. If you see it on a graph, you know it's 2, all right? Because it's just right in the middle. But now we just don't know what the y value is, but we can very easily just plug that into our original equation. Always and forever, if I have x, I can always find y. So I'm going to say y is 2 minus 1, because that's our x, times 2 minus 3, that's our x. And so then that gets us that y is -1. I would just put this into your calculator, parentheses and all, and it's going to handle that for you. All right, here we go. We're looking at it again. Here's my zeros. So x is -3 and x is 1. And I want to find the middle. So at this point, we don't have to even worry about this until later. I'm going to find the middle. So I'm just going to say what is in the middle of -3 and 1? -3 plus 1 divided by 2. Find the average of the 2 points. All right, that's going to get us -2 over 2. -1 for our x value. All right, so that tells us that our vertex here is -1 something. Well, remember, we have an x. We can always get the y if we have the equation. So y is negative times x, -1 plus 3 times -1 minus 1. And I'm just going to put this part right here into my calculator. Let it do the math for me, and we will get the vertexes at -1, 4. All right. Here we go. Now looking at the next one here, zeros are at +6 and -2. Let's find the middle. Make sure you guys are pausing and trying these out. So 6 plus a -2 divided by 2. If I add a negative, all I'm doing is subtracting. All right, so I'm just going to take that away. 6 minus 2 is 4 over 2. And that gets us that x equals 2. So there's our x value of the vertex. And then we can just plug that in. Y is 1/2 times 2 minus 6, 2 plus 2. And that will get us -8. Right, so we've got zeros, we got vertices, we got lots of things going on, so now we can kind of start putting things together. So I want to find my zeros, so I've got x at 1, and I have x at 3. I'm going to go ahead and plot those, 1 and 3. We know a is 1, which means it's positive, so we're going to be opening up, giving us a minimum. All right, now my vertex. So we got to find the middle. Well, we have a graph. What's in the middle of these 2 points? Right here, right? We just need to kind of count in. So my vertex is at 2, and then I'm going to go ahead and plug that in. Y is 2 minus 1 times 2 minus 3, and that gets us -1. So 2, -1 is going to be our vertex. And then the y-intercept, we know all about this. We know y-intercept x is always 0. So let's just go ahead and plug in a 0. Y is 0 minus 1 times 0 minus 3. And so that's going to give us 3. Again, I would just put that into your calculator. And our y-intercept is at 0, 3, so I'm going to plot that, and then I'm going to reflect it across our middle line, perfectly drawn. There we go, and now we've got a nice looking graph here. Oops. There we go. All right, here we go again here. Pause this, give it a shot. X is -3 and +1. We're switching and switching. All right, and A is negative, so that means we are going to be opening down, frowning, which gives us a maximum. All right, so we've got, let's plot these points. -3, 1. You guys can totally count in and find your middle, but we did that last time. So let's find the x value a different way here. So let's go -3 plus 1 divided by 2. Doing the good old algebra we did before. That gets us -2 over 2, which is -1. So I know my x value is -1. We know if we would have counted in, that's exactly where we would have landed in our middle. And I'm going to plug that in to find the y value. So y is a negative times x of -1 plus 3, x of -1 minus 1. And put this into our calculator, and we get 4. All right. So I'm going to go -1, 4. There's our vertex. And one last thing to find is our y-intercept, which we always know is 0 comma something. X value is always 0. So I'm going to say y is negative times 0 plus 3, 0 minus 1. And I'm going to put that into the calculator, let it do its thing, and get us 3. So my y-intercept is at 0, 3 again. And then we're going to reflect. All right, guys, so that's how we're graphing with factored form. Hope that makes sense. Make sure to ask us questions, and good luck getting mathy.